Hi, how you doing? It's Mark again. Back with This Is How We Did It Volume 3. And this is about the Snowman soundtrack, which I sort of set myself the challenge to use it as a sample in the first video there. So basically I've managed to do something quite extraordinarily strange, but it's been a very enjoyable experience. But what I wanted to do was to focus on what today we're going to be talking about, what samples are for, how you use them, why we use them, what are they from a philosophical point of view. Because as I've got older and having been involved with sampling a lot, I've realised that things like memes and GIFs and propaganda itself are really at the core centre of what sampling is all about. And I discovered not too long ago where the sample came from on a very famous dance record, which we all had to queue for weeks, going back to Spinning in Manchester to buy Voodoo Ray by a guy called Gerald. And I was actually working in the studio where Voodoo Ray was made when I was a student first arriving in Manchester. And when I actually found this out, like I was saying, which was not too long ago, that Voodoo Ray actually is a sample of a comedy duo called Derek and Clive, that I would find it very hard to believe. But it is indeed a sample of Derek and Clive, which of course is Peter Cook and Dudley Moore. To give you a blast of the original of Voodoo Ray here, which, you know, if you're old enough and you've danced in a rave or a club, you'll know this tune. So let's have a listen. Voodoo Ray. There's also a part of the tune that goes later. Coming up now. Okay, later there, right? So it says Voodoo Ray and later. And this really did blow my mind when this came out, because I used to listen to Derek and Clive when I was about 12, and it was very rude.
He replies, later! Later, meaning what it says, really.
And then the next bit.
In her sort of voodoo rage.
Yes, she
Voodoo Rage and later, taken from Derek and Clive. So I've been racking my brains thinking why a guy called Gerald would even be looking at that record or have it in the studio. And so, you know, I bought the MP3 off iTunes of that comedy sketch, which is called Bo Dudley, and it's a little bit hard to listen to because I know they're sort of playing idiot characters, but it's definitely on the racist tip, if I'm honest. But that's from a different era. But it's got Dudley Moore just being an idiot pretending to be Bo Diddley. So anyway, that's that. And obviously what I find the most interesting about this is that this is not a hip-hop track. This is not sampling a jazz track. It's not sampling a soul track. And those were the two things that we did originally, was, you know, jazz with Bob James and then soul with the Beverly Glenn stuff that I did. Just hang on. I think the band's back. So basically, by taking this Snowman sample, it's a bit of a strange place to go, but I set myself the challenge, and I've managed to, you know, to go and make something interesting and very strange as well. I've just made a little playlist of types of music that have influenced me in this field, that are essentially like a melancholy that comes across in music and in dance music, which is obviously when keys are in minor chords and what have you. And some tunes that I really dig that express this. One is by U96 and it's called The One Russian, and this is from 1993. Some German guys, or Dutch guys, I think. And sorry, this is quieter down here. Amazing tune. Sort of deep, mournful, and then another one was Night Falls by Booker Shade, which I think is a magnificent piece of music. Very empty, hollow, Beautiful, deep tune. Of course, these tunes here don't have samples in them, but I'm just trying to show you the palettes that people use when they're trying to explore human emotion, which really is what music's for. And certainly as I've got older, and you know, when you're DJing, you're trying to create an emotion of getting people to dance and everything, but I've always had a pretty strong melancholic side myself, which you'll probably hear in my music productions with the stuff that I've done as a solo artist and with Ray and Christian as well. So I basically have always liked things like this Wally Badarou here on the Good To Go soundtrack. Just beautiful, soft, gentle music. And I also, what I want to do now is bring in, and let's have a look at what I've been doing with this Snowman track then. So I got some strings up, and we'll have a blast. Whoa, we're not going to do any of that, I'll tell you. Okay, so now I took this album as I showed you. I bought it the other day, and it's on white vinyl, and got some strings going with an arpeggiator to make it sound like they're playing some Vangelis in here. Weird Vangelis stuff. Vangelis. I've even got Christina Aguilera in here, right? So check her out. This is just from her Dirty track, the intro.
Yeah.
Okay, this is French, teaching children to speak French. Okay, so this French sample is in the same key, but it's a bit weird and it's kind of all over the place. But I thought, you know, what is the Snowman film and music actually about? Well, I find it quite scary how that makes me feel as an older person. Because I think when it came out, it was like 1982. I was 14. I was setting fire to pubs and snogging girls in bus stops. So the last thing you'd expect me to be doing is listening or watching the Snowman. So I had no heart for it, of course. So I was a young lad. So now, you know, you grow up, you have kids, and then you reconnect with what these feelings are supposed to be about. And it's very, it's hard, because really the Snowman essentially is trying to teach children about mortality. And it's very simple. Of course, water goes into ice, forms something else, and then eventually goes away. And that's why I found that, you know, the connection between music, physics, arrangement, and human emotion seems all like a strange, you know, mixture of things that you wouldn't think would be connected, but they are. That's why we're attracted to music. It's mathematics. Okay, so I like I've used this French album here, and this is what I like about true digging. You go and find records around you. So this was from a gift aid item in a local charity shop, and it's teaching children, French children, how to speak and write and what certain letters are for. So there's a on Francais, there's a little thing underneath called a cédille. So basically that's what this kid's being taught here. So I thought I could mix the sort of otherworldly children vibe of being a child and how magical and strange that is, and also with Christmas, and it seems to sit together. And basically the final thing is just saying that you use a cédille for the word limaçon, which is snail, but it also means love. So basically it all seems to work in the track. Let's listen to the French stuff on its own. That's quite interesting.
Qui veut un, c'est qui claque. Moi dit le pélican. Qui veut un, c'est qui siffle. Moi dit la cigogne.
Quite lovely.
Qui veut un, c'est qui craque. Moi dit le crocodile. Qui veut un, c'est qui souffle. Moi dit la chouette.
Jam, because it's sad. Yeah, so I don't know if I've really got my point across, but the philosophy of sampling in music, you know, what is it to us all? It's about things we recognise and that we like and we could connect with. And there's a crazy sort of history of philosophers talking about music and what it means to humans. A German philosopher called Schopenhauer said that music was the most profound of all art forms, you know, because it could reach deep inside us. And Nietzsche said that life without music is a mistake. You've got to be careful with him though, because Nietzsche was used by those 1940s marching types from Central Europe, if you know what I'm saying. And then also Plato said music was so powerful that it should be controlled by the state. And I think that's it's really interesting, because what is it? And I mean, I try and think about why is it so powerful? And it's because our bodies are made up of molecules, and molecules are made up of atoms, and atoms have a valency, or molecules do, to be attracted to each other. And this might be a bit out there, but bear with me. But H2O is water, which the snowman's made from, okay? 2 hydrogen molecules want to make love with an oxygen molecule, and that's the beginning of love, you know? So basically, I see love as an act of chemistry. And it is really, isn't it? Because we're all animals, we're all made of physical matter, chemistry. So I'm going to have a little ride again on this because I like it. I probably won't do another one of these before Christmas. If I do, it's because I can't stop myself. And also I just wanted to talk about how sampling's not just about music. Obviously we borrow all of each other's words. We live collectively by knowing each other, and obviously the internet's changed that massively. But I read David Byrne's book, How Music's Made, some time ago, and it's a really excellent book. It's really quite thick, but David Byrne from Talking Heads, of course, made a really massive effort to explain all of his knowledge about music and what it means to him. And he was talking about how he got the lyrics for Once in a Lifetime, which is, you know, a really incredible tune. And he was saying he got the lyrics for "You may find yourself living in a chat, and you may ask yourself, you know, why have I got this big car and why do I live in this house?" And you know, you're thinking, where would you come up with those lyrics? Well, he actually got them from a cassette of a Christian preacher who is trying to convert people, and it makes total sense when you hear that now, because he's borrowing to express something from society to make it art, which I find, you know, really what art's for. And I will have a little listen to this tune before we go out again, just so you can ride on it, about one thing called choreomania, which happened in the Middle Ages throughout Europe, where people would suddenly start dancing and hundreds of people would join them, and they'd go mad and they wouldn't eat and they'd just dance until they died. Well, that's how powerful music is. Vangelis on his own. Space music. Aguilera on her own. Isley Brothers hi-hats. It's mad as a box of frogs. It's good without the vote Frenchness as well. Okay. Okay, thanks for listening and watching, everyone. Have a great Christmas if you don't hear from me before then. Lots of love.